Well, we begin with breaking news and a dramatic escalation in fighting in Ethiopia. At least 3 rockets have been fired from Ethiopia into Eritrea, potentially widening the conflict. Diplomats in the region say 2 of the rockets hit the main airports in Eritrea's capital, Asmara. It comes on the 11th day of fighting between Ethiopian government forces and leaders in the Tigray region. The Tigrayan People's Liberation Front had earlier threatened Eritrea.
We will conduct missile attacks to foil military movements in Massawa and Asmara. We will undertake every other kind of measure to foil efforts to subjugate the Tigray people inside Tigray or other places.
Well, the TPLF have also admitted that they struck first, which prompted Ethiopia to launch that offensive in the region. They've also said they were behind 2 rocket attacks on 2 airports in the neighbouring Amhara region. Both sides are accused of atrocities. Well, the TPLF dominated coalition politics in Ethiopia for 30 years before Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power in 2018. Well, Mohamed Ado is in the city of Gondar on the border of the Tigray region, and he sent through this update.
Diplomats tell us that at least 3 missiles have been fired from the Tigray region to Asmara, the capital of Eritrea. 2 of those missiles have hit the airport, the Asmara International Airport, while another one is said to have targeted a building housing the Ministry of Information and a number of local media houses. But eyewitnesses said that the missile that targeted the Ministry of Information did not actually hit its target, but fell outside the building. We don't have any word on casualties, but what we know is that this is a huge escalation of the conflict that has so far been restricted to the borders of Ethiopia and particularly to the Tigray region. Now it has crossed international borders, and it is something that could bring in Eritrea into the conflict, and very quickly at that, because of the close friendship Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia and Isaias Afwerki, the president of Eritrea, enjoy, and also the fact that the Tigrays have absolutely no relationship and have got a long history of animosity with not just Isaias Afwerki, the president of Eritrea, but Eritrea as a whole. This is huge by every measure.
Well, thousands of refugees have crossed into Sudan over the past week. Al Jazeera's Hibba Morgan has more from the Sudan-Ethiopia border.
Hundreds of refugees continue to arrive here at Hamdayet Border Reception Center. Now, this center is just about 2 kilometers away from the Sudan-Ethiopia border in Sudan's Kassala state. And hundreds of refugees have been pouring in here into Hamdayet Reception Center, with the number reaching up to 9,000 just over the past few days alone. Now, most of them live in conditions like this, out in the open with no shelter and no proper sanitation. And this is raising concerns amongst aid organizations here, especially medics, that this would create a health crisis. Medics say that most of the people who arrive suffer from chest infections as well as malaria infections due to exhaustion from traveling for days escaping the fighting in the Tigray region. Most of the refugees we've spoken to speak of the same horror, saying that they have seen people being slaughtered, that they've seen aerial bombardments, which has made them fear for their lives and flee here to Sudan, seeking safety and seeking humanitarian aid. Now, medics say that they are quite concerned about the number of refugees and the influx. They say that they're expecting more than 9,000 over the coming days, and that's just here in Hamdayet Border Reception Center. Sudan says that it's expecting a total of up to 200,000 in the coming week between here in Kassala State and Gadaref State, which both border Ethiopia, and it's calling out for the international aid organizations to help respond to what it's calling is turning out to be a refugee crisis.
Well, William Lawrence is a former US diplomat and a professor of international affairs at George Washington University. He says the rocket attacks on Eritrea mark a serious escalation in the conflict.
The first thing that come to mind when I think about this conflict is, first, wars usually start for one set of reasons, escalate for another set of reasons, and then are settled on different terms than the original thing. The original war was started. And also, in this part of the world, any war is immediately a humanitarian crisis because of the socioeconomic situation of a lot of the people and the way the borders are and all of that. and you've got a lot of different ethnic groups here. The fighting immediately affects Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia in sort of counterintuitive ways. In some cases, you've got Somalis there. You've got ethnic animosities, ethnic grievances. So almost anything, as soon as the killing starts and the atrocities start, can spread to other areas rather quickly if it isn't contained and de-escalated. Eritrea doesn't really have a dog in that fight. And even though they share ethnic commonalities with that region, they're not politically allied with the rebels. So if I'm Eritrea, I want to stay out of this as much as possible and prevent spillover as much as possible rather than choose sides.